The hall smelled faintly of recycled air and metal polish, a sterile scent that made everything feel smaller, though the station itself was vast enough to hold a dozen Earths side by side. Security bots hummed down the corridors, their optical sensors sweeping the floor for unauthorized movement. And yet, somehow, they didn't notice the small, warm figures curled up at the end of the hall. Lieutenant Mara Chen leaned against her desk, eyes half closed behind a thin layer of fatigue. She was the human assigned to Station Orpheus's Interspecies Liaison Division, a job that required patience, diplomacy, and an uncanny tolerance for chaos. Chaos, it seemed, had decided to nap in her hoodie. Again? Mara muttered, glancing at the two cub-sized alien creatures sprawled across the worn fabric of her sweatshirt. They were almost impossibly fluffy, their orange and cream fur resembling a terrestrial tiger's miniature cousin. Except they had 4 eyes, retractable claws, and Mara swore she saw them smirk occasionally. "Security is here," her comlink buzzed. She sighed, pulling the earpiece free. "Yes?" Lieutenant Scar's deep, resonant voice came through. "Human routine sweep. You know the drill. Everyone out of hallways for inspection." Mara rolled her eyes. Routine sweep meant that the bots would scan the corridors for anomalies, aliens with forged papers, tech smugglers, or stray fauna. They had no intention of actually bothering her, at least not until today. She glanced down. One cub yawned, revealing a mouthful of tiny, jagged teeth. The other stretched luxuriously, claws retracting with a faint click. "Not a chance," she whispered. "You two are staying put." The station's PA system crackled to life. Security sweep commencing. "All personnel clear hallways immediately." Mara groaned and shucked her hoodie off, tossing it over the back of her chair. The cubs tumbled with it, settling into the folds like it had always been their bed. She stared, bemused, as the smaller one's eyes flicked toward the hall, then closed again. "You know humans are weird?" Mara said softly, scratching behind one cub's ear. The creature purred, a sound reminiscent of a bass trombone, low and melodic. "But I like weird." The bots came first, sleek, silver frames with wheels instead of legs, sensors spinning like radar dishes. They scanned, paused, beeped, and moved on. Security protocol dictated they ignore stationary humans unless a threat signal triggered, which luckily Mara wasn't. Then came the inspectors. Scar himself, a towering figure of iridescent blue scales, exoskeletal armor glinting under fluorescent lights. His 4 eyes, 2 primary, 2 secondary for thermal vision, surveyed the hall with meticulous care. Mara sat up. "Hello, Lieutenant. Your sweep seems thorough today." "Routine," Scar said, voice vibrating through the floor panels. "We've noticed anomalies." Mara followed his gaze to her desk. "The hoodie and the sleeping cubs." "Oh," she said innocently, tilting her head. "Those? They are not authorized," Scar said. "They're very tired," Mara replied. "Station life is hard on the young." Scar's claws clicked against the floor as he stepped closer. The cubs stirred. One peeked an eye, then tucked back into the hoodie. The other yawned again. Mara suppressed a laugh. "You may handle your war differently, human, but regulations exist for safety." Mara shrugged. "I assure you they pose no threat." She leaned forward. "Actually, they help me do my job. Watch." She picked up the nearest console and tapped a few commands. The cubs' ears twitched, and in a coordinated pattern, they pawed at the keyboard with precision that defied their appearance. Data scrolled across the screen. Mara's voice narrated. They scan the logs faster than any standard AI. They detect anomalies in the station network, patterns the bots would miss. "See here? Someone tried to hack the cargo manifests last night. The cubs caught it." Scar's secondary eyes blinked slowly. He leaned closer. "You are suggesting your companions have superior analytical capabilities?" "Exactly," Mara said. "Humans adapt. We find solutions. Even small humans or human-tolerant animals can make a difference." She glanced down at the cubs, who purred in unison. "See? They're amazing." Scar paused, then his 4 eyes scanned her face. "This is highly irregular." "Maybe," Mara said, picking up the smaller cub and letting it curl around her neck. "But sometimes irregular is the only way to survive in a universe that doesn't care about rules." The next hour passed in a blur. Security bots hummed and scanned, inspectors clattered and recorded, and Mara's hoodie remained a fortress for the Cubs. Every time an alarm pinged, the Cubs responded faster than any standard system. Logs were corrected, minor sabotage prevented, and at least one interstellar shipment was saved from misrouting. Finally, Scar's patience, whatever fraction of patience a being with 4 eyes could possess, wore thin. "You, human, are remarkable," he said slowly. "I cannot allow this." Creature assisted security indefinitely. "But I cannot deny its effectiveness." Mara smiled, tucking a pawed cub under her arm. "So, can we call it a truce?" Scar's jaw clicked. "Truce. But only if the Cubs remain under human supervision at all times. Any deviation and we enforce full protocol." "Deal," Mara said. She glanced at the Cubs. One gave a lazy stretch. The other rubbed its tiny face against her shoulder. "See, they understand diplomacy too." The inspection ended without incident. Security bots rolled away, inspectors filed reports, and the hall returned to its usual quiet hum. Mara leaned back, exhausted but triumphant. "You know," she said softly, stroking the fur at the collar of her hoodie, "humans aren't the only ones who can adapt. But somehow we make everything work, better than anyone expects." The Cubs purred louder, a sound of contentment that seemed almost human in its satisfaction. Later that evening, Mara sat alone, sipping a bitter, recycled coffee and reviewing station logs. The Cubs, now fully sprawled across her hoodie on the floor, occasionally flicked a tail or let out a sleepy chirp. The PA crackled. "Human Chen, message from command." She pressed the earpiece. "Yes?" A familiar voice, crisp and efficient, cut through. "Your ward-assisted security report has been received. Headquarters is intrigued. We may need your methods implemented station-wide." Mara's eyebrows shot up. "You mean my hoodie and my Cubs?" "Yes, precisely." She laughed softly. "Well, guess that makes us officially indispensable." The Cubs stirred at the sound of her laughter, curling closer. Mara smiled down at them. "Indispensable. That's us. Not bad for 2 little Cubs and 1 exhausted human." Scar's voice, filtered through the PA for a final remark, rumbled. "Human, continue your unconventional methods. The universe may depend on them." Mara leaned back, sipping her coffee as the Cub's rhythmic purring filled the small office space. She let herself relax, for once proud not just of her own abilities, but of the small, furry partners who had proven that sometimes humanity's secret weapon wasn't strength, or speed, or technology, but adaptability, ingenuity, and the sheer irrepressible will to do more than anyone thought possible. Somewhere along the hall, the lights dimmed, the station hummed, and a small pair of Cubs yawned in their human's hoodie. In a universe built on rules and regulations, they were living proof that chaos, managed wisely, could be heroic. And for Mara,